Welcome back to the Electrify podcast, brought to you by the creators of Electrify Expo, North America's largest EV festival, coming to a major city near you. Welcome back to Electrify News. I'm Jarod Deenda. Really excited to have our guest on here. And as we know, just all things electrification, not exclusive, but we're going to have some fun here because this company is having some fun. That's what it's all about. It's all about compact mobility. And the company JackRabbit in itself, they have some cool branding, some good marketing. And I had an opportunity to meet Jason very briefly out at Nitro Cross, and he's got a great shirt that even has his own e-bike on it. And again, Jason, you're calling from San Diego, so a lot of people are just admiring just living in San Diego in itself. But thank you so much for joining us here today, man.
Thanks a lot, Jarod. It's great to be here. It's really great.
Yeah, so excited for people. Again, the EV bike space and just e-bike is such a crowded area. Break it down. JackRabbit, what's the name mean? Why a JackRabbit e-bike over anybody else?
Well, we make this little peppy, zippy little thing. It got named for us as a micro e-bike. Frankly, we didn't know what to call it. Some of the early prototypes had a bigger back wheel than the front wheel, and it kind of took off and sprung out of nowhere, kind of, right? And we're like, yeah, it's kind of like a JackRabbit, right? So we coined that term, and it stuck. And then other people, Wired magazine, various other publications. Wired is the one who called us best micro e-bike. We've been their best micro e-bike for a couple of years now, and we're like, oh, I guess we're a micro e-bike. And we have people that say that's not a bike because it doesn't have pedals, but I'll show it to you. I'll lift one up here to give you an idea what it is, but it's a unique vehicle, and you'll see it's a unique vehicle, but it's kind of like a motorcycle. What do you call motorcycles? What do people call their motorcycles? They call them their bikes, right? So it looks like a bike, it quacks like a duck, all that stuff, kind of, right?
And it bounces and it hops like a JackRabbit. So that, I think that's that. Yeah, pick one of those hot rods up. Yeah, I mean, look how light that is. That's one-handed. And sorry, Jason, you're not the biggest guy at the gym. I'm just gonna call it like it is, bro.
I'm a professional beer stein holder.
But yeah. Oktoberfest coming up soon. Check out Jason over down at. Okay, there it is.
So it's got a throttle here.
Yeah.
It's got some foot pegs on it, basically, right?
Yep.
It's got a 300-watt motor. It's got this battery in the top, that black thing you're seeing right there. That's the battery cap. The battery just pulls out of it. And it's very, refined, we'll say. It's 24 pounds, right? And so it looks small. It's got 20-inch BMX wheels, slightly bigger wheel on the back, 2.5-inch wide versus 2-inch wide for maneuverability. Back where all your weight is. 160 millimeter rotor on the back. And this is our original JackRabbit. This is the JackRabbit OG. And that's what we call it, the JackRabbit OG. And it packs down super light. You can fly on airplanes with it. And I'll show you in the background here. This is a new model. This is the JackRabbit X. This is the JackRabbit XG, and I'll lift it up as well. It's got kind of like moto foot pegs, you see, and it's got a down.
Those are the shin splitters, dude. That's when you were a kid and you had the bear trap pedals and they spun around a clack. They'd catch your shin. But anyway, those aren't spinning around like you said. Those are foot pegs. They're not mobile.
They're foot pegs, and we have they're moto style. They got some teeth on them.
I like it.
But we rounded them a little bit just to keep people's shins a little better off. It's got two batteries in it instead. It's got a 500-watt motor instead of a 300-watt motor. It's got a speedometer. It's got front and rear light ports on it. Super light, but just kind of more powerful.
Taking a look at that, what's that seat post? Is that a built-in suspension, or is it just?
Yeah, we sell these. These are awesome. This is a Connect seat post. That's the brand.
Oh,
we don't make these, but these are kind of game changing, I'm gonna say.
So it's built-in suspension.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. No, and again,
you gotta ride one.
I know, and we saw each other at Nitro Cross. Everybody's ripping around. We'll get to that in a moment. But I love right out of the gate, you're just breaking down the product, because sometimes we kind of, skirt things in regards to just different agendas or what's going on. And it seems that, like you said, you've received the accolades of Wired magazine, obviously us having this conversation. So JackRabbit e-bike, you talked about the OG and then the new model. What's the differentiation between those two? Good, better, best, battery? What's the range? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, sure. So the OG was our original concept, and we're like, we're essentially like, hey, we love full size bikes. We all like to skateboard. I still snowboard. I don't do much skateboard anymore, but I still snowboard a lot. We can ride scooters, but we're not that crazy about scooters, you know. And so we kind of made this hybrid between the two. We love full size bikes. They're just more than you need sometimes, kind of, right? You know. And so we came up with the OG concept as this like hybrid new type of vehicle, and people, anybody can ride it. We have people in the NFL riding JackRabbits, you know, like big dudes. The U.S. Olympic rugby team bought a fleet of them from us, you know.
Really? Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, these 300-pound dudes, you know, like 6'6" dudes and stuff like that, you know. But we realized that for certain areas, we kind of wondered whether we'd sell any in San Francisco, right? With major hills, it's the 300-watt motor. You kind of have to some hills on the OG. I'm not going to evade it. You got to kind of what we call Fred Flintstone it a little bit, kind of, right? You know.
Yeah.
but it's zippy and it's powerful and it works, and we sold a lot in San Francisco. But we're like, hey, for really, really big dudes and for major hills, when you ride in a lot of hills,
Yeah,
and people want a little bit more range. Our battery swaps out, hot swap. You can just pop another battery in. Our base model gets like 10 miles. We say 10 plus miles if you're a 130-pound, 140-pound, you know, rider.
with
that
ideal
rides more.
conditions, right? It's kind of like if the weather's good and we're good, like just ideal conditions. Talking about weight.
No. I mean, everything varies, right? You know.
Right.
But I've flown with the JackRabbit to Vegas. I've got it out of baggage claim.
Okay.
I put the travel bag in my backpack because it just folds up. I rode all the way to Fremont Street and then all the way back to the Strip. I'm 180 pounds. I was cruising. That was about 12 miles. So I mean, that's just regular riding, you know. But if you are a 250-pound guy who bombs big hills and throttles the heck out of it, and then you'll get 10 miles or maybe even 9 miles, right? You know. But if you're a 140-pound, 150-pound average size kind of rider that's, you know, that rides it mellow, you'll get like 18 miles, you know. So that's our base model. The XG has 2 batteries in it, so you get 20 plus miles with that. So if you're a mellow rider, you'll get well into the 20s with it.
Wow.
And it's just designed to like conquer hills more. And frankly, it looks a little bit more, I'll just say, normal, kind of, right? In some ways, kind of, right? You know. People kind of describe us as like looking like a BMX bike, kind of, right? You know. But we actually have a very short wheelbase as well, even though we have these big wheels. And this bike just, you know, it just kind of looks more like a bike moto style sort of type thing because of this down tube and our dropouts, stuff like that. We're pretty proud of this design, and it costs a little bit more. Our original JackRabbit, the OG, this is $999, so sub $1,000, right?
Yeah.
And the XG is $1,749, $1,750. So.
And that's a good value. Yeah, you could see. I'm looking at the website right now. Just a little bit design, a little beefier, like with the down tube, things like that. But that OG is compact. You're saying big rugby players, 300 pounds. Those dudes are riding those things.
Yeah, man. I've seen people like at like boat shows. You know, boat shows are a lot of fun. Yeah. We have all kinds of crazy people at boat shows. You know, and some big people walk up, you know, and they're like, hey, can I ride? And I'm like, sure. And I'm like, oh gosh, you know. And I've seen 350-pound dudes. I've seen them bend the foot pegs a little bit when they're at like 350. But they're like, holy cow, this thing carries me just fine. You know, this thing's zippy. And I'm like, yeah, right, good. I'm glad to see it. You know. So
no, that's amazing. And I'm just looking at all the features here. You talk about the compact folding design. That's obviously a big selling point for somebody that's, as you say, maybe landing, going somewhere, either events. And we talked about that before we hit record, but you do a lot of cool crossover stuff. So I met you, you know, we kind of talked about having you on the show, and then I announced Nitro Cross, which is the FC1X, an all electric car. So what a great compliment to have these JackRabbit bikes around the pits. Notably, you were over at Vermont Sports Car Pit, which is Travis Pastrana, Connor Martell, and you were talking to that team. So a great option as far as accessibility, getting where you need to go around the pits, or just, and again, compact. So, you know, here's race teams that are moving race cars and tools and all these other things. you could throw one of these just in the race truck and the rig for the weekend. So I got a couple events coming up, including Grid Life at Laguna Seca and stuff like that. I might need to tap you, Jason. I'm gonna come swoop one up. But that, I like that. But also that segues into boat shows, nitrocross, other things. Where are you trying to find these, and where else can people find these? Because everybody just thinks about, oh, I'm going down to the bar, I'm going down to the farmer's market or whatever. Where else?
Yeah. I mean, you nailed a lot of it. I mean, you get it clearly, Jarod. But yeah, it's kind of everything. We have had some people kind of say, especially when we started, this is diminishing, but they're like, oh, I could see how this fits a niche somewhere, kind of, right? And now we're kind of faced with it where it's like, well, if you fit so many niches, you're not a niche anymore, kind of, right? And so you nailed a lot of them. I mean, it's a great pit bike. It's a great event bike. It is. A lot of the dudes, at least at Electrify Expo, ride them as their event bike, basically, kind of, right? And they fly to Electrify Expos with them, right? And they ride them from the airport and ride them back to the hotel, all that stuff,
so
right?
cool.
But our biggest market is New York City, though, because it's such a good. You could carry this up flights of stairs and everything. You don't have to leave it out. Bikes will get stolen if you leave them out long enough, even locked.
Unfortunately, right? You
and
come
yeah,
back and
it's
there's
super
one wheel.
fun, but it fits all these kind of utilities, like boating, RVing, outdoors, commuting, college students, all this stuff. And you mentioned a fun one as well. It's kind of like, we like to have fun on JackRabbits, and you got to kind of think about like the pre-ride, the mid-ride, and the post-ride, we like to say as well, right? And so it's kind of like, how are you going to get your bike to where you want to go? Kind of, right? With a JackRabbit, like, you can fly there, you can take it on a bus, even, you can throw it in the trunk of a car. The mid-ride, it's like, oh geez, I hope my $5,000 e-bike isn't being stolen around the corner, kind of, right? With a JackRabbit, I bring it into bars,
Yeah.
and I put it next to my table at a restaurant or whatever, and people are like, what's that? They're not like upset about it. And then at the end of the ride, if I'm at a bar or whatever, I'm like, oh, I think I'll just call an Uber, and I can throw 2 JackRabbits in the trunk of any Uber X, basically,
That
kind
is
of, right?
so cool.
So yeah, we think it's unique, and we're making an impact. We see other people who are now kind of like, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, that sort of type stuff, right? And now that we've come out with the XG, people are like, whoa. And I mean, Jarod, I hope to see you at Electrify Expo Miami and or Austin, because we need to get you on JackRabbits more, and I can lend you one to ride around the venue. You'll dig it, for sure. So
and you saw that, you've seen that, and most recently even on Electrify News, Honda's been doing this for a while. They had a car that fits what they call the Moto Compacto, their electric scooter. I mean, this is like, they had it back in the late 80s, early 90s, and they had that.
The Moto Compo, I think it is.
And now it's like Moto Compacto. Like they have a new variety, and it's, such a good compliment to, particularly, this is what I always say. Like I do a lot of work with Snap-on tools, right? And you think about tools. What is a tool? It's a solution solver. So that, a tool is fixing something, right? So it's a solution solver. And I feel like that's where JackRabbit's at. Again, coming into this, I said, this space has so many different options, from Super 73, which is just this really, different bike, right? And you get these other, kind of classic looking ones. And this is a different tool. This is a different gadget. This is a different need. And just understanding, from the shirts, the aesthetic, the things that you're saying speaks to a different consumer and a different need. And I think that's what JackRabbit's really kind of accomplishing.
We've talked before, you and I, Jarod, a little bit, but you've just looked at our stuff and you get it, kind of, right? And that's fantastic. And we just, more and more people get it. We love the Super 73 kind of vibe that's out there, kind of, right? And we love that some press are kind of like saying, hey, Super 73s are cool. And Jack, in terms of brands that are kind of like distinct, kind of, right? They're different vehicles, but they're all, and we love to go on ride arounds with Super 73 riders and one wheel riders and folks like that, kind of like we like that vibe, and we like to think that we fit into that vibe. Hopefully we have plenty of people that tell us we're for geeks and we're lame or whatever, but I think we're okay, you know, so we'll keep working on it.
And you know what, geeks and nerds, that's not a bad thing anymore, right? It kind of had a bad stigma, like, oh, you're a geek, you're a nerd. You know what? Proudly, yeah, I'm an e-bike geek, whatever, bro. Like, figure it out. Something that you brought up and kind of skimmed over, and you said you did this, you know, go to Vegas, ride the bike, go down to Fremont Street, which is significantly far if you don't know Las Vegas. Like you said, that was over 20 miles, 12 miles each way. Or no, sorry, 12 total. FAA friendly. How does JackRabbit, and how does one become FAA friendly?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go down in terms of like what that is and like what it is, kind of, right, you know, overall, right? And so the FAA has rules on batteries, basically, right?
Yeah.
You know? And we all know that there's concerns of battery fires, and they're very real concerns, right?
Yes.
You know, and New York City is kind of the hotbed of that as well, right? You know, we fortunately, you know, we're ahead of that. You know, we've always been focused on quality from the very start. We've always actually been focused on safe riding from the start. That's why it has big wheels, by the way. Not to go down that too fast.
No,
I want to
please.
stay on your topic, but you know, we kept our speed reasonable. It's a zippy 20 miles per hour, but we're not trying to make it, you know, if there's aftermarket accessories that make it go 30, then fine. What are we going to do about that, right? You know, but we've been focused on that. And when it comes to the batteries, we were focused, and just the overall design, it's like, how much do people really, how far do they really need to go, right? You know, and I think it's something like over 70% of car trips in the US are under 5 miles, or something like that, right? You know, like a big number like that. And only like 15% are over 20 miles or something, right? You know, and so these sorts of stats, I might be off by a bit, but I'm not orders of magnitude off. And so we figured out that, like, hey, we can make this thing go pretty far. You know, 10 plus miles, that gets, you know, 2 miles here, 3 miles there, a couple miles there. And that battery actually fits within the FAA requirements. So the FAA developed these rules so that you can bring laptops onto planes, right? So you can bring extra laptop batteries onto planes, right? And so our power is our battery size is 151 watt hours, and the FAA allows you to bring 2 batteries of any particular brand, one type of battery, 2 batteries between 100 and 160 watt hours. That's on the FAA's website. You can bring 2 in your backpack. And since the battery pops out of the top of JackRabbit, you just throw the batteries in your backpack. You put the JackRabbit in a travel bag. I walk up to the Southwest counter, you know, free check bags. I drop it off. You know, it's fantastic. You know, I've done it a million times now. And our batteries are also our whole bike, our batteries, they're all UL tested. So we were ahead of all this problem of kind of like cheap hacked batteries and everything, right? Our batteries are solid. And when you go through the UL test protocols, I mean, they hammer it. They like massive vibration tests, they submerse it, they overcharge it, they undercharge it, they rapid discharge it, all these different types of things. And both our bikes are fully UL compliant, basically, right? And so that means that you can bring JackRabbits, and the XG has 2 batteries in it. You can bring 2 batteries on a plane. So you put the 2 batteries in your backpack and check the XG just like the OG, you know. And so you know, like, not everyone needs that, but in like certain markets of ours, like Hawaii, there's a really great dealer that we have in Hawaii called the Hawaii Bike Factory on Oahu, and they sell a lot of JackRabbits. And part of how they sell them is kind of like, hey, check this thing out. You know, like people aren't coming in, at least initially, they weren't coming in looking for JackRabbits. You know, they're like, you should check this thing. And they're like, is that electric? Are you lifting that bike with one hand? You know, and they're like, yeah. And they're like, but next, get on it, ride it. Wait till you see how this thing performs, you know? And then the third thing is kind of like, maybe it's because it's Hawaii, it's an island, you know, right? But they're like, imagine all the places you could go with this thing. I mean, you could fly to the mainland with this. You could throw it in a car. I mean, all that travel portability aspect, you know. And we are classified to get into a little bit more technical bits and pieces, I guess, right? We're classified as a scooter. We don't call ourselves a scooter because we don't look like a scooter, right? You know, we don't look like a small wheeled, higher center of gravity stand-up scooter. We look like a bike, kind of, right? You know, we're made of bike parts. We have bike geometry. We ride like a bike, right? But that's how we're kind of like legal everywhere as well. We're just a low speed, lightweight electric scooter, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And it works. Whatever you call us, we're fun and we're pretty cool, we think. And so we're like, call us whatever you want. Just jump on a JackRabbit and try it.
Yeah, it's almost like a jackalope is what it is. It's just this kind of amalgamation of many different animals kind of coming together, and again, it could be utilized as functional, could be used as fun. I really like the compact design. That's a huge selling point for me. I'm just thinking about just all the miles I fly, and as you said, going to New York. Obviously, you're not going to go from LaGuardia into the city, but but you could take the
You could.
yeah, you could. I mean, you could take the subway, but I'm just saying, the JackRabbit. I love the accessibility. Just it sounds just like I said, this Swiss Army knife of the e-bike world, and that you're having a lot of fun. And maybe touch on that, because you talked about the batteries and going through testing, because that really is a problem, and people don't know what they don't know, and they're like, oh, I got a deal. I got this other bike down the street, this company white label whatever e-bike, and you might have a ticking time bomb in your
Yeah.
garage. So there really is something to be said about buying of quality, of caliber, and these specifications. So maybe kind of a buyer beware from
Yeah.
Jason of JackRabbit.
Yeah. I mean, we love our brand. We like to be kind of like playful and everything, right?
Yeah.
We also we make this for adults, by the way, as well. Like we're just like, we want to establish that it might look small, but it's for adults, but we still have this very playful, if you've seen any of our stickers, we have stickers that say like micro and proud and size matters and stuff like that, right? So we have
Oh,
this.
and again, you're having fun, and that's brand differentiation. Again, Super 73 has this tribe. You have this JackRabbit tribe, and you got to build that branding. But when push comes to shove, the technical aspect is something that I really want to
Yeah.
cut into, because we got to keep
That's
it
where I was
safe.
going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we might be kind of like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We have a playful tone and everything, but we're very serious about quality and about engineering and about testing. And we always
Yeah.
have been from the start. We want this to be a brand that, like, I mean, from our standpoint, we're just getting started. We have two great products and a bunch of great accessories in the portfolio, but there's kind of like, I mean, there can be like an extreme lightweight version. There can be longer and shorter versions. There can be versions possibly with 3 wheels with a unique design, because trikes have their issues, I believe.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll do a kids version at some day, partially to like show that the main one's actually not for kids, right?
Yeah.
But we're just getting started, and to get started and to have a solid trajectory, you gotta start as you mean to go, right? And we've
Yeah.
started always with super high quality. We're 6061 T6 heat treated aluminum frame. The cells in our batteries, I already talked about UL, but our battery cells are by a maker called Molicel, Taiwanese, and there are most batteries, including even the Korean brands, most are made in China as well, which is fine. It's just as long as they're all tested, But
Right.
but there's LG, there's Samsung, there's Panasonic, and then there's Molicel. Molicel's the most expensive, and we did that for reasons of thermal efficiency, and I can go into that. It's kind of geeky and boring, but it's just a really high quality cell, kind of, right? It's a really high quality battery that won't overheat. Has very long life, charges fast. It gives a lot of very safe current to the motor, right? Which is why we're able to have JackRabbits. So people get on the JackRabbit OG and they're like, wow, this thing is just kind of zippy. It's just like, I could just zip around, and it's extremely, I mean, you can turn circles in a hallway. We have a JackRabbit with a MotoGP team in Europe, and they all ride it with their knee pads on and kind of do the tightest circles you could possibly imagine. So yeah.
Yeah. No, and again, it comes down to just this really compact feel. I love the name, love the branding overall. What other companies do you like in the e-bike space that you kind of, again, rising tide lifts all ships?
Yeah.
You kind of backhandedly, and I'm guilty of this, right? Like, oh, imitation is the highest form of flattery. I don't totally agree with that, but I know what you're saying. It's an old adage. But
Yeah.
who do you admire? Who do you have as allies for JackRabbit? Some
Yeah.
dealers, some companies, some other e-bike companies, aspirational. I mean, you have
Totally.
when you initially launched this, you had to say like, oh, I really like this company, and maybe we can refine it or do it this way compared to the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, great question. Yeah. And it's a great question because it's so important right now for like people to kind of like, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's just noise everywhere, right? And there's a fair amount of crap out there as well, you
Yep.
know? And so, recognizing kind of common values and kind of banding together in this crazy wild west that we're in kind of right now a little bit is really important. So it's a great question. We all kind of succeed together, kind of, right? There's plenty of room for tons of good brands right now, which
Yeah.
is great. And I mean, partners like Electrify Expo, like we participated in Electrify Expo 2 Long Beaches ago. We've been to the last 2 Long Beach shows. We went to Austin last year, and then we learned how customizable kind of along the way since then. We've learned how customizable JackRabbits are and how much we have a great Facebook fan group. I love these people. They're just awesome, and
Great.
they do all kinds of crazy customizations from lightweight stuff like foot pegs and different seats and stuff like that to like total like steampunk JackRabbit kind of, right? Like in various different like, and we have people doing more electrical mods, which is a no, but what are we going to do about it?
I mean, hot rodders, like they
Yeah.
exist in everything. Yeah.
But we met, the show off side of Electrify as well, and Neil Chin and those guys. I'm the director of show off, and so we work in both the micromobility space. We demo rides. Everyone loves ride the JackRabbit. And so Abe in the micromobility section of Electrify has been great to work with, and now Neil in the show off side is great to work with, and BJ and Jeff Nordstrom. All these, it's a great team.
Yeah.
And so we love what they're doing, and we think they love what we're doing more and more, and so Electrify is awesome, and there's lots of other press that get us and really are, and it varies, and again, not to geek out too much, but some of the press, like South by Southwest this year, if you're familiar with that event, it's a major cultural event kind of, right? It has been for a long time. They found us and they leased a fleet of JackRabbits from us, right? And and it's spread out all over Austin, right? So they're all riding JackRabbits all over Austin, right? And they wanted us to speak, and because they think we're okay at that, and our theme there was kind of like the future of mobility, if you will, kind of, right? Why JackRabbit works with cars and the existing kind of infrastructure. So. So we get a lot of support from that sort of press, and then we get support from just kind of like the fun, like Cycle News and folks like that who like utility and also are just like, this thing is just fun to ride around the track, ride around the pits and everything. So press has been really important to us. Our dealers are massively important to us, of course, and we're proud of our dealers, like the types of dealers we have, because they're kind of recognize this new thing, and some of them are pretty darn innovative in doing that, I feel like. And Bass Pro sells JackRabbits. The Army Air Force Exchange sells JackRabbits. We think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Camping World's been a great partner with us for the RV segment, kind of, right? We sell at Indian Motorcycle in San Diego and Indian Motorcycle in New Jersey. El Paso Moto, various power sports moto shops, a lot of specialized shops. We're an authorized vendor to Specialized Corporate. So we sell through specialized stores in LA, like InCycle and Rock and Road in the Orange County area. Those are, and like they sell Super 73s, they sell Specialized bikes, and they sell JackRabbits, kind of, right? And so dealers are just super important. We'll do it. We carry all replacement parts. We're not screwing this up. We're not going to run out of, first of all, they're reliable, but second of all, we ain't running out of replacement parts and leaving anybody high and dry and stranded, kind of, right?
That's great.
And then other brands, like, and sorry, it's kind of a long answer, but it's a good question. It's an important question. Other brands, like we like the Super 73 folks, Rad Power Bikes, right at the very top, like where the name comes from, is kind of met and chatted with them as well. And they think JackRabbits are pretty cool, I think. And then brands like Zoo's bikes, if you're familiar with those guys are super cool. It's a different product. It's worth checking out.
Cool.
Go Cycle, a big exhibitor at Electrify Expo. Those were designed, I think, by like a McLaren guy originally. They're way more expensive than a JackRabbit, but they're really nice, kind of, right? They're a different product.
Cool.
So Go Cycles are great, and yeah, you can see like we like link up with these guys at these shows, and we go on group rides with them. Volcon as well. They make some cool utility type vehicles like the Stag and stuff like that. And we've had some good interactions with them as well. So more and more. And when it comes down to components as well, our suppliers of our motors and our batteries, they're of course, critical. So
your website's really thorough. I'm taking a look at it. It is jackrabbit.bike, and up
yes.
in the menu you could see test ride, and I'm looking at find your dealers, book, ride, decide. So if you're at home, so you do have locations where you can link up with, I'm seeing San Diego, LA, San Jose, Houston, Atlanta, Miami, and then obviously a map. So find a dealer, take a test ride. I think that's really probably the most critical part, right? Because, hey, it looks good, but once you get the ergonomics of it, the design, the practicality, or it might not be a solution provider for you. Maybe you do want something, again, you got to test drive these vehicles, right? I mean, if you're going to buy a car, you got to test drive it. You're like, hey, my wife got a new car and she was thinking EV. She went eventually ICE, but she got a new BMW, and she was thinking one manufacturer and she went to another, and she got a BMW X6, and it's a fantastic car. It's not my thing. I like trucks. I like, a little bit bigger, and I'm going to go pick up a credenza right now, but test riding, man, you got to get it in the hands. You got to feel, right, that sensory experience. And it's great to see the world back open again, and people are thinking differently. People are transporting differently. People are, down to one car because the world has shifted and said, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need a car or two cars. Let's get one, and let's get a JackRabbit, because like you said, the average car ride of somebody is 5 miles. And how often are they doing that? I know my buddy Dennis, he works at the college. He's an engineer, and he rides an e-bike every day. Every day he goes, and it's great. They got one car, and he goes down there, and it's practicality, driving the thing, the JackRabbit. You keep using the word zip, so I got to kind of use the zippy word, but it's really cool. And also going back to yours being acknowledged as a scooter, what are helmet laws? Is it state to state, or what? How does that apply?
State to state. That's state to state, heavily state to state. Yeah. You should wear a helmet, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And accessories, going and looking at it, everything. So if you live in a fairly wet environment, you guys have fenders, which is good because you don't want to get roosted out back. The JackRabbit could definitely bite back with some fling, but extra batteries, got baskets. I talked about that. The suspension on that.
Yeah, we've always tried to make it super modular, right? It doesn't come with fenders, but fenders are pretty darn cheap, and they're just utility kind of, right? And so we're going to add more and more of these modules. The XG comes with a front and rear light, but that's the only thing that you have to install. It'll take a couple seconds to install it, right? But not everyone wants the front and rear light kind of on it necessarily, right? So we put them in the box. There's a port that it plugs into, right? So it's kind of continues with our kind of modular aspect with it, and even like trailers, we sell a great trailer from a company.
I just saw that, man. That's so cool. This mule, right? Like, so if you're pulling stuff, the Earth plus Kin mule, is that what it is?
Yeah. The Earth and Kin, that's the name of the company, and the mule is the product. And those, back to great partners, they're a great partner. And we identified each other and we started working together. And it's a solid trailer, like super solid. So
yeah, I'm seeing like the tires are obviously pneumatic, got kind of a nylon siding, tubing. So if you could throw whatever you want in there, and obviously that's according, like you said, don't hop them up, but you're gonna do what you got to do. And the air, sea, and land travel bag, I think that's a critical component. I'm really enticed to give this thing a test travel and ride, man. I think I'm really, really interested. And again, I wasn't able to ride one at Nitro Cross, but I live in Southern California, and I golf a lot. So, and I take my golf cart down to the course, but I could see taking the JackRabbit, pulling it into the pro shop, leaving it, cool, no problem. This is such a cool solution solver. You guys should be proud. So we talk about kind of how this came to be, where you're at, what's the future look like for JackRabbit? More products, different accessories, kind of just and that's what's cool about it, is it's technology based, right? So it's the advancements, what's available.
Yeah. And so, you're already on the right track. I mean, yeah, I'm impressed by the way back at you, Jarod, right? I mean, in terms of your ability to look at our website and click around. I mean, we've met before, but like, yeah, you're quick study. So thanks for all these great questions.
Thanks to BJ. I mean, he tapped my mind. So he's like, hey, do you want to host this? I said, yeah. So yeah, the future of JackRabbit. What do you got?
It's awesome. You know, the future is bright, you know. We really have, like, I want to emphasize these two models that we have now, because I mean, our criticisms, they are what they are. I mean, perception is reality, you know, right? And so some people were like, I wish it had a little more power, and I wish it had a little more range, and I wish it could hold a little bit more weight, you know, even though, again, we have, so here's the X sheet, right? And so we really believe between these two models, they're both a pretty good value, you know. I mean, Super 73s are great bikes, but they're over $2,000, you know, right? So we have a sub $2,000 cool bike, we have a sub $1,000 bike, you know. And so we think we're going to do a lot with those, you know, including customizations as well, you know. We're exploring additional batteries, things like that. We're exploring lots of different accessories. And then the two other things that I'll say are, there will be more models in the future. You know, it's down the road, because these models are solid for right now. Yeah. You know, like a buddy of mine was a very early guy at Red Bull, and you know, like Red Bull had a couple SKUs for many years, kind of, right? You know, because they worked, right, and they kept it simple, kind of, right? You know, so we think we can do a lot with these, and especially with accessories and modular aspects. You know, but you know, there's all kinds of micro e-bikes for all different types of people. We're pretty committed to not putting pedals on them, I'll say, because it's just more gears. It's more, you know, it's more parts, right? We like to, sometimes this analogy works, sometimes it doesn't, but I like to say we're like high quality sushi, kind of, right? You know, like there's not that many ingredients, but it's very refined and it's good, you know, right?
I love that.
And so more models, but also more tech. You know, we already do have tech. I come from a tech background. I worked at this company called Qualcomm for vice president there for a couple decades, and invented a lot of, you know, the smartphone and app store stuff. And so we put a fair amount of tech in here. The tech is more on the mechanical side right now, where it should be to make this really perform out in the real world. But we will add more tech as well, just to maximize that distance. Our mechanical and electrical tech is already solid. We will be putting more compute and connectivity tech down the road as well in it, essentially.
Well, you know what? I think, you know, we've said a lot, and we went, you know, this wasn't the most compact podcast, but I think we really need to explore what really separates JackRabbit from the rest of the pack. And I think you've done a really good job at it. If there's anything else you kind of want to, you know, educate, somebody's like, what the heck is a JackRabbit? And you know, I think we kind of really unpacked, you know, no pun intended. We boarded the plane, had our JackRabbit, we unloaded, we took a ride, and people know more about the JackRabbit, but then we pack it back up and we hit the road again, baby.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, again, great questions, good conversation. And yeah, I mean, like, we're just like, this segment will develop. You know, yeah. I really think it will. And, you know, and I want to say, like, it's good. Like it does good, you know, right? You know, like it's very accessible. It's affordable. It has kind of like good things for society, I'll say. Doesn't have much bad. I mean, sure, if you ride it irresponsibly, you could get yourself in trouble, but it's designed to work, you know, and wrapped around all that, it's just a lot of fun to ride, kind of wrapped around and threaded through it. It's a lot of fun. So, I look forward to, you know, seeing you at Electrify Expo live, and you ride a JackRabbit. I want to be at Nitro Cross with Vermont Sports Car. Travis, I think, you know, we lent them, Vermont Sports Car, a set of pit bikes. Travis rode this one, I think, actually. That's why I'm like, Travis rode this, you know. But
no backflips, no double backflips on the JackRabbit. Let's not do that.
No, there were the announcers. I maybe you or somebody was like, maybe we should get those little e-bikes and the Nitro Circus or something. And
no, that was probably Jimmy Coleman or Micah, my boy Micah Kranz, the big boy Micah. Yeah, it definitely wasn't me. I'm not gonna strength test it, but it seems that you have, you know, from the batteries of tech, like you said, you come from the tech world. Qualcomm, I'm very familiar. I grew up in San Diego. I'm actually wearing an Aviara shirt, so maybe I get some couple rounds at Aviara. But all joking aside, man, congratulations on your success and your growth and your contribution to the world, because, you know, we didn't even touch on that, but that goes without saying, of, EV compared to combustion, and motorcycle combustion engine versus electric. And there's a philanthropic side there that, I think that people care. We got one planet, and you want to take care of it. So, and I kind of didn't want to touch into that because I just want to make it fun. And I think that's what the JackRabbit's all about, from the party shirt to the compactability, the FA, the regulations, the UL testing. You told the story, man. So more information, they go to jackrabbit.bike. And then what's the Instagram handle?
JackRabbit.bike as well, and Facebook, JackRabbit.bike. So you asked a lot of great questions. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for the, like, treating us nicely. And I mean, you're asking straight up questions though, and I'm trying to answer them, right? But it just, and so thank you for all of that. But it's our whole team, and you asked the great questions about it's the community, and not to be too cheeseball or BS-y kind of, right? But everything's just better when communities do work on stuff together, kind of, right? So we love our rider community, we love our industry community, and let's just do more stuff the right way and do more good things and make good things happen. Have fun.
Proud to be micro. And you know what? You have a customer, that's your best asset, is your customer that is enjoying the experience, and they're down at PB, and they're down at a bar, they're down at a racetrack, and they're your disciples. That's your tribe. So absolutely, this I hopefully, you guys 100%. Share this video, and you're already raving fans, your JackRabbiters. They're going to say, hey, listen to this video. It's going to educate you on what a JackRabbit is. If you're thinking about one, here's some answers right from the JackRabbit's mouth, aka Jason. So thank you so much, man. Thank you for joining us. Check them out again, jackrabbit.bike. Educate yourself on this absolutely solution solver of transportation and having fun while doing it. Check out the JackRabbit bike. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks a lot, Jarod. Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Electrify podcast, brought to you by the creators of Electrify Expo. Be sure to catch full video episodes on YouTube at Electrify TV, and follow along on social media for daily clips and more.